Chapter 28. Anita. The entire Weatherby household was awakened Monday morning at 5 a.m. At first, no one knew what that strange brrring was that kept blaring over and over. Anita thought she was dreaming. Even Madeline, asleep at the foot of her bed, didn't stir. Then she heard the banging of a broom on the wall they shared with Mr. Murdoch. "Someone answer the door! The phone!" she heard the old man yell from his phone. Home. Wow. Phone? Who would be calling this early? Anita and Lizzie stirred in time to hear their father rush downstairs to get the phone, which was in the kitchen. It had seemed the perfect place to put a phone when they moved in, but now Anita wasn't so sure. She, Lizzie, and Mum put on their robes and followed Dad downstairs to make sure nothing was wrong. "Hello?" "Yes, this is he," she heard Dad say as she reached the landing. He was rubbing sleep from his eyes as he listened intently. "What?" he said sharply. "When? Are you sure?" He looked at Mum and his face brightened. Yes, of course. We will be right there." He hung up on the phone and looked at the others. "That was the station. They think the Weatherby has been found." "Oh, Leslie, they do?" Mum started to tear up as Lizzie and Anita started peppering Dad with questions. Anita's heart raced inside her chest. Stella, has she forced Bennett to confess? Was Mr. Fonswater involved? Was Roger's dad's name cleared? She thought of her notebook and all her clues, and her breathing quickened. Stella still had it. Did someone turn it in? No, Dad said, hurrying past her. Apparently, a night watchman at the Hampton House for Dogs and Cats did his rounds and saw a necklace in one of the pens with the dogs. Anita froze. One of the dogs had it? That didn't make sense. She was sure it had been Bennett, or Fonswater, or even, she hated to admit, Stella's dad. Has she been wrong about everything? Are you sure? Anita, I know as much as you do, Dad said, sounding slightly agitated. Let's just get down there and find out for ourselves. They want us to come identify it immediately. Scotland Yard is already there. Anita didn't ask any more questions. She just kept replaying all her leads in her head as they drove to the Hampton House. Pre-dawn London was quiet, even with the streets empty, though. The car ride felt slow, and Anita counted the minutes till they arrived. Had they really found the Weatherby? Was it a fake? Did Stella help make this happen? She wished she could call a friend, but she'd never be up. Anita, how dare you call me at this hour? Stella would bark if she called. Anita would just have to wait and see what they learned at the shelter. The Hampton House was surrounded when they pulled up front, and Scotland Yard ushered for them inside, explaining to Dad how a watchman heard barking and went to check out the dog pens. That was when his light shone on what he thought was a diamond necklace. He called the head of the shelter right away. We moved the dogs out and initially left the necklace right where it was in the pen, but we brought in an expert to check the necklace's authenticity to make sure it's not a fake, the detective explained. Who authenticated it? Anita burst out, and everyone looked at her strangely. She wondered how much she should say and not say. She didn't want her family duped. I know we met Mr. Fonswater at the show the other night. Isn't he an expert, Dad? Yes, he is, Dad said, nodding. Maybe we could get his information from Richard DeVille and make sure the necklace is authentic. No, Anita said at the same time as the Bobby said, no need. Anita, Mum rushed her. Sorry, it's just so early. I'd hate to call the DeVilles, she said hastily. Lizzie side-eyed her strangely. No need to apologize, the detective said. Emotions are running high, but not to worry. Our in-house expert says it's the real deal. We just want you to make sure it's actually the Weatherby necklace. When the authenticator arrived, we moved it to one of the offices here at the shelter. Follow me. The detective walked them past several dogs in nearby pens who saw the group and started barking. They passed the now empty pen that was currently being examined and photographed by several officers. Anita heard a few talking about possible ways into the shelter and another talking to the night watchman. I didn't hear any disturbances. Yes, I fall asleep sometimes on duty, but I would know if there was a break-in. Were there dogs in the pen with the necklace when you found it? Anita asked. Yes, the detective chuckled. 2 Cocker Spaniels, believe it or not. He shook his head. Can't figure out for the life of us how one of them would have swallowed the diamonds and then, he coughed, excreted them. That's disgusting, Lizzie said with a shudder. Anita agreed. It was also unlikely. How could a relatively small dog have swallowed a necklace that size? This was Stella's theory all along, Anita remembered, but something still didn't sit right with her about it. Why had it taken more than a week for the dog to rid itself of the necklace? And wasn't it odd that it appeared right after she'd met with Stella? She still felt bad about the tone she'd taken with her friend, but she'd been so upset and didn't want Stella trying to make her stay quiet anymore. She hadn't spoken to her since Saturday. I have to call her as soon as we leave, she thought, or I'll see her at school. The detective took them into the office off the reception area, and there on the table was the necklace. The Weatherby, Dad exclaimed as Anita, Lizzie, and Mum gathered close to see. May I pick it up, Detective? The detective nodded, and Dad examined it in his hands, his eyes welling with tears. This is the necklace. I'm sure of it. He passed it to Mum, who passed it to Lizzie, who turned and smiled kindly at Anita before offering it to her. Anita looked at it a moment before accepting the jewelry, almost afraid to be in possession of it again. But she couldn't resist. She took the necklace gently from Lizzie and felt the weight, her eyes examining the diamond arrangement and the clarity of the jewels. You're back, she thought. Also, think about how ironic it was that a necklace she thought had too much emphasis on it in the first place had become so important to her. To our family, she corrected herself. To our future. She smiled at her parents. This is the Weatherby, all right. Mum started to sob and hugged her, pulling Lizzie in close too, and then Dad, the 4 of them forming a little circle, hugging one another as a group, while the detective went to find out when the necklace could be released to them. When he returned, he needed Mum and Dad to give a statement, and they left Lizzie and Anita alone in the small office. I'm sorry, Lizzie said suddenly, and looked at her. I know I've behaved rotten through all this, acting as if it was your fault the necklace was stolen. Anita was so surprised at her sister's apology. She wasn't sure how to respond. In a way, it was, she admitted. If I hadn't asked to wear the necklace in the show, none of this would have happened. But you didn't lose the necklace. It was an accident. Lizzie swallowed hard and took a sip of the tea the detective had brought them. I guess I was jealous. When you became friends with Stella and then were invited to walk in the show and Mom started fawning all over you, it felt like you were being replaced, Anita said for her, and the two looked at each other. That's how I felt ever since we got to London. You took up acting and made all these friends, and I had no one. Not even you. We used to be friends. Lizzie's face twitched. I know. Back in Hemel Hempstead, when we were smaller, we were inseparable. And then we moved, and I was terrified. She looked at her sister. I tried to become someone else, and I guess I was afraid if someone saw the real me, they wouldn't want to be friends anymore. You have always been so sure of yourself, so smart, so easygoing. I'm always so high-strung. I see you, Anita said. You're a great singer and actor, and everyone at Highbrook likes you, Lizzie. She paused. But just because they like you doesn't mean they can't like me too. I know that now. Lizzie reached for her hand and squeezed. And I see you too, she said. And I'm glad you found Stella. Me too, Anita thought. Mum knocked on the door, seeing the two of them holding hands and smiling. We could go home now. They have to hold the necklace till the investigation is closed, but it will be somewhere safe, she explained. What about Mr. Radcliffe? Anita asked. Will he be cleared of charges? Yes, Mom said. Your father asked that too. Now that it looks as if one of the dogs ingested the diamonds and this whole thing was an accident, charges will be dropped immediately. Dad appeared at her side. There couldn't be a better outcome, he said happily. The necklace is safe, Mr. Radcliffe has been cleared, and the House of DeVille no longer has a shadow cast over them in their show. He chuckled. If anything, the press should have fun writing about what really happened to the Weatherby. Doggone it! Weatherby eaten by hungry hounds, Lizzie said, trying a headline on for size. Weatherby goes to the dogs, Dad suggested, and Mom laughed. Diamonds are a dog's best friend? Mom tried, the three of them laughing it off. Anita chuckled too, but she couldn't help feeling like this was all wrapped up a bit too neatly. It's what you wanted, she told herself. The necklace has been returned, and everyone's names are cleared. She still had no idea who those two men were backstage, or why Mr. Fonswater was wearing ew did dog food. She wondered what would happen now to the DeVilles with their money trouble, or Roger and his father's bills. But the biggest question on her mind was still this. Did Stella make the Weatherby reappear, or was the timing all a coincidence? I don't care what they write, Dad said happily. I'm just happy the Weatherby is back. And next time we lend it, it will have heavy security, even if the Queen herself wants to borrow it. Agreed, Mom cheered. It was only 7 a.m. when they all returned home, but Dad and Mom wanted to celebrate with eggs and bacon. No school today, Dad declared. I'm not going to work either. Madeline jumped around them, barking excitedly at their exuberance. Lizzie cheered. Anita, however, had different plans. I think I'm going to go to school if you don't mind, she said. We know you're worried about the leaderboard. But everyone needs a day off once in a while, Lizzie said gently. I agree, said Mom, putting an arm around her. We can watch the telly or go to the movies. We can do whatever you want. I want to see Stella, Anita thought, and off she went to meet the school bus. Neither Stella nor Roger were on the bus that morning. They weren't in class either. Anita watched the clock, counting down the minutes till school ended so she could head to the Seville and find Stella. Should she call Roger? They weren't friends who called each other, but she wanted to check on him and also see if he found this whole necklace reappearance as strange as she did. A happy accident, she'd heard one detective say. But what if it wasn't an accident? Did she just let it go? Anita? Miss Norbert called her over to her desk, and at the end of the day, as everyone was filing out and heading to the bus. I didn't want to bring it up in class, but I heard the wonderful news that the Weatherby has been found. Yes, this morning, Anita said, clutching her books tightly, unsure how much to say or not to say about the whole situation. I still can't believe one of the dogs might have swallowed it, Miss Norbert said with a laugh. But as long as it's back in one piece and Roger's father's name is cleared, I'm happy. And Hannah Strum from Reynolds News called me too. She wants to do a story on the shelter and the pets available for adoption. Someone is coming next week to take photographs of some of the animals. Really? Anita tried not to smile. She'd suggested this to Hannah when she'd met her. It's not the dog's fault what happened. I don't want people being afraid to adopt from a shelter. There are so many dogs and cats that need good homes, she'd said. And Hannah had agreed to reach out at some point. There's more, Miss Norbert said as she stapled some papers. Stella called this morning. She said her father would be sending a check to match the donations given at the fashion show. She did? Anita hesitated. How is that possible? They were in financial trouble, weren't they? Yes. She said I'd have the check this week. Miss Norbert looked thrilled. I told her with all she's done to raise awareness for the shelter, she was getting the extra A+ in my class. I'm sure you understand. Of course, Anita said. She couldn't blame Miss Norbert for that, but she did wonder how the leaderboard would pan out for her and Roger. There were still a few weeks left, and it was going to be a battle to the very end. She smiled to herself in a way she was looking forward to it. Did she say why she wasn't coming to school today? They're moving, apparently, Miss Norbert said. Moving? Anita plunged. Where? I'm not sure. Something about her father moving to the country. But don't worry, dear. She might be staying at the Seville in a smaller suite, she said. But she wasn't really forthcoming on the details. Sounds like everything is up in the air. She said there were some things she had to work out, and her father was taking care of them. Moving to the country, Anita repeated. That could mean that family estate Stella said had been in her family forever. That would keep costs down. Now, more than ever, she wanted to see Stella and find out what was going on. Thank you, Miss Norbert, Anita said. Good luck with your interview at the shelter. Anita rushed out of the classroom and hurried to catch the bus. In her haste, she bumped into Roger in the school's entrance, dropping her papers and her books. Roger, I'm so sorry. I was in such a rush to catch the bus, she said, bending down to pick everything up. No, I'm the one who should be sorry, he said, as he gathered her things and handed them back to her. I should have been watching where I was going. I wanted to catch Miss Norbert before she left for the day so I could get my makeup assignments. His brown eyes sparkled as he smiled at her. My father was clear of all charges, so he celebrated and I missed class. I did hear. I'm so happy for you both. Truly. They looked at each other, and Anita felt the overwhelming urge to hug him, whether it was appropriate or not. So she did. She was relieved his father wasn't taking the blame for something he didn't do. I'm so glad his name was cleared. Yes, me too. He looked down shyly. I can't thank you enough for helping clear his name. I didn't do anything, Anita said truthfully. It was the dogs. They coughed the Weatherby up, so to speak, and now the case is closed. At least as far as the public is concerned. Yes, about that. I was wondering, Roger started to say. Oh no, Anita thought. Whatever Roger wanted to know, she probably didn't have any answer to. She had so many lingering questions for Stella. Stella. She had to get to Stella. Roger, I'm so sorry. Could we talk later? There's somewhere I need to be, Anita told him, and started running. Maybe there was another bus she could catch. Of course, Roger called after her. Bye. She barely made it down the rest of the walk before she saw her. Stella was standing there in the middle of the walkway, a trademark scowl marking her pale face. Her arms were folded across her chest, the leaves on the white shirt she was wearing under a black polka dot vest billowing in the breeze. She'd paired it with a black skirt and boots, looking like she was ready for the runway rather than a trip to Highbrook. Stella, Anita said excitedly. I was just taking a bus to come see you. Stella looked at her somewhat coolly. Were you? You looked pretty busy with Cornelius to me. Anita blinked. I was just congratulating him. His father's name was cleared. She lowered her voice. I was wondering if that had anything to do with what we talked about the other day. With Bennett? Bennett? Stella glowered. I don't know what you're talking about. I heard the necklace was found at the shelter and that it was exactly as I predicted. A dumb dog ripped it off your neck and ate it, and then coughed it up or did unmentionable things to bring it back. Anita could feel Stella's anger pulsing off her. Why was she behaving like this? Was she mad that she'd been confronted with those leads? Stella, I'm sorry if I upset you the other day. I was just trying to figure out how we could find the necklace. Stella's smile was thin. Yes, that's why I came to talk to you. I can see now that your precious necklace is all you really cared about, not our friendship or what my family did for you. A bunch of jewels. She shook her head. You're just like everyone else in my life, using me and throwing me away. Stella, no, that's not it at all. I swear I just saved it, Anita. I don't want to hear it. Stella's eyes wandered to where Roger was standing several yards away. Share it with your new friend Cornelius. Anita's heart was beating fast. Her eyes flickered to Roger, too. She thinks I've betrayed her, Anita thought. You're my friend, she said, reaching for Stella's hand. which hung limply at her side now. You've been on my mind all day. Let's just go somewhere and chat. The hotel? Miss Norbert says you're moving. Stella cut her off. I'm not. My father is. Oh, Stella was living alone? How sad. Or you could come home with me and have dinner with my family, Anita said hopefully. They're all dying to get to know you. Anita thought she saw the spark of something beneath Stella's heavily penciled eyes, but it was gone in a flash. No, thank you. I have plans. Much to do. Oh, and that notebook you gave me? Yes, Anita said hopefully, wondering if Stella would explain whether she used it to deal with Bennett, or find out who those goons were, or talk to her father. Did Mr. Fonswater have anything to do with what happened? It was rubbish, Stella said flatly. Really, Anita, I thought you were smart. Your ideas, your theories, all so foolish. I burned it, in fact. Don't want anyone else getting the wrong idea. Oh, and I also had my father call that sorry excuse for a reporter and let her know that if she ever even thought of using her interviews against him when the true culprit, a dog, had been found, she would be sued. Stella had fixed this. Anita was sure of it, but she wanted the world to believe otherwise. If Anita sat with it long enough, she knew the truth. She could see Stella the way no one else could, and right now, she was hurting. Anita wished she could help, but when it came to her friend, she was learning the best thing she could do when she was like this was give her the space she needed. Of course, I'm just happy the whole situation is resolved. Same, Stella said. Well, I should be going. She motioned to a car a few feet away. Was that Bennett at the wheel? The man quickly looked away. Goodbye, Anita. Her voice was strained. Stella didn't understand what was happening, but clearly something had changed between them. Had she done something wrong? Did this mean their friendship was done for? Or just going to be different from now on? Goodbye, Stella. I'll see you tomorrow. Stella nodded curtly, walked to her car, and disappeared. Anita was still thinking about Stella when she got home from school and decided to take Madeline on a long walk through the park. In the short time she'd been friends with Stella, so much had happened, good and bad. I am important. I belong here. I am a force to be reckoned with. She had a feeling she'd be repeating those words for the rest of her life, thanks to Stella. But she would also always wonder what really happened with the Weatherby. What was the truth about the necklace's disappearance? And why had Stella pulled away? Only Stella knew the truth. And maybe that was the way it always would be. Anita was just rounding the bend in the park path when Madeline yanked on the leash, pulling away and barking at something up ahead. Madeline, slow down! Maddie! Anita said, racing to keep after the dog, who then abruptly stopped short, making her collide with another person in the path. Oh, I'm so sorry, she said as the person wobbled and she caught their arm. Anita! It was Roger, and she was holding the leash of a small pug who was now sniffing Madeline with interest. Neither dog was barking. Roger! Anita exclaimed. I'm so sorry. It's quite all right, he said with a laugh. I see we're going to make a habit of this. I'm afraid so, Anita said. He ran a hand through that floppy hair of his. I don't know if I properly said so earlier, but I really did want to thank you for believing in my father's innocence. He looked at her. Of course, Anita said. I'm just glad everything worked out in the end for all of us, including Stella. Yes, well, she always does come out on top, Roger said wistfully. She does seem to, doesn't she, Anita noted. About the leaderboard, he started to say. Oh, don't worry, Anita said. After everything that happened, we don't need to discuss that on a Monday afternoon. We can wait to spar again later. That's just it. Roger interrupted, his cheeks coloring. I wanted you to know that even if I take the top spot, I won't be returning to Highbrook next year. Anita froze. Oh, why not? My dad and I had a long talk today. and we decided it might be best to get a fresh start in another city, he told her. Somewhere more affordable than London, with a school that isn't as expensive, till we could get back on our feet. He looked at her. So I won't be coming back next year. Anita didn't know what to say. For some reason, as mad as the boy made her, she was also disappointed. He drove her to be better, and he'd said that as she did the same for him. That's a shame. I'm going to miss our competitions, she said, trying to keep her tone light. Well, there's still a few more weeks of term, he said with a smirk. You're not done with me yet. His dog yanked on the leash and sent Roger flying forwards. A notebook fell from under his arm. Anita picked it up, spying the music notes on the page. She handed it to him wordlessly. My songbook for the songs I write. My father doesn't know, of course. Not sure where it will lead. But I find working on them helps me relax. Especially here. He hummed a little tune to himself. I love to come to the park to think and work out the lyrics. Anita smiled. That's so funny. I come to the park to think of new ideas for my stories too. And my drawings, she shared, and they both looked at each other. I guess we have more in common than we realize, he said, staring at her. She felt a strange sensation in her chest, one she knew Stella would not be happy about. I guess we do, she agreed, staring at him as well. He motioned to the long, winding park path in front of him, and the two dogs on leashes waiting impatiently. Care to walk and be inspired together today, Miss Weatherby? She smiled at Roger sincerely. I would like that very much, Mr. Radcliffe. Very much indeed. Maddie's and Roger's dogs tugged on their leashes, eyeing each other as they took off, each trying to outrun the other as they headed up the path. She and Roger snug glances at each other as they walked and talked that afternoon. The sun breaking through the clouds, the pond reflecting the glow of a spring day when London was starting to bloom. But it wasn't just London. Anita was blooming too, finding herself in the city with her dog at her side and a new confidence in her step. She couldn't wait to see what happened next. And that is the end of Cruel Truth, A Twisted Tale. Thank you again for joining me on this lovely Read It Loud. I have to say, I was actually feeling pretty intense. Well, I wouldn't say intense, more like curious, because I never expected the ending the way it did. Like, it was just... it was definitely a mystery. Don't you think so, Quinn? Don't you think so? Yeah. Well, till next time, guys, be prepared. A little reference to our next book. Till you later. Bye-bye.